So, welcome to today's video. We are taking a look finally at the Manganesebrown pigments. We have three different for this pigment yellow 164, manganese antimony titanium buff rutile. Then we have iron manganese oxide, it's PBr43, and PBr8, manganese hydroxide and manganese manganite. I'm sorry that this video took me so long to finish. First, I lost my complete research and I had to research everything all over again, which was a lot of work and very discouraging and yeah. And then I had a lot of problems with my sound, and we thought we found the problem, and yeah, that's basically now my fourth recording of the video, which also took a lot of time, and it took much more time to finally find the root of the sound problem, and I hope that now it is fixed permanently. So we are starting with PY164. The first one I will be swatching is from the Italian brand Manganeseblue. They call it Sepia. I will let a link in the description box, affiliate link to the Mom Arte shop. That's an Italian art shop which is shipping worldwide. The site is currently only in Italian, but they are working on their English website, and this is probably coming in September this year. And that's the best source of Manganeseblue watercolors I have found. And they have a lot of good deals as on other art supplies as well, and they have a super friendly support. Which are speaking English, so if you already want to order there, it's absolutely no problem. They will help you. I have already ordered with them, and I had only good experiences with them. So PY164 and the PBr43 are both pigments I haven't found a lot of information about in the internet. Most pigment databases are made by artists, and if pigments aren't used in art a lot, then the harder it is to find any information about the pigments themselves. So yeah, the information isn't very there isn't a lot of information. It is created by calcinating at high temperatures a mix of oxides of manganese, titanium and antimony to create a crystalline rutile matrix. The light fastness is excellent, so best light fastness. It is chemical resistant. It has a high resistance to outdoor weathering and also thermal stability. That's probably also the reason why it is used a lot for coating paints for industry, like for example steel coloring, I guess to protect the steel underneath for temperature, weathering condition and sunlight and stuff like that. It is also used for polyolefins, RPBC, engineering resins, so a lot of industrial stuff. Like all manganese pigments, it granulates. It is semi-transparent to opaque, so no manganese pigment is 100% transparent. They are more on the opaque side. And what I didn't found as an information is the toxicity, but manganese is normally, they are all toxic pigments, from slightly to very, very strongly toxic. So always be sure to handle it with care. Don't eat or drink while working with the pigment. Wash your hands thoroughly afterwards, and of course don't eat or drink or inhale any any pigment parts. That's definitely something I would be very aware of. Like, yeah, handle it like other toxic pigments. So the second one I was watching at the moment is the one from Roman Szmal, a Polish brand, and they have titled it at least better than MyMaryBlue, because they call it Manganesebrown, which is a correct name, I think, for the color. I'm honest, I'm super confused that it is a yellow pigment, because it is so clearly dark brown in color. So I'm not quite sure why it is considered to be a yellow pigment. What I realized while I do my swatches, you will see that when it is completely dry afterwards, that it has a huge drying shift. It appears so much darker now than it is later in the dried swatches. So that is definitely something to be aware of. When I did the swatches, I thought, oh my gosh, I got way too much pigment. The swatches will be black or super dark brown, and you can't see anything in the end. So I tried to take off some of the pigment to make it a little bit lighter, but it still looks very dark. But you will see in the end, when I show you the dried swatches in a close-up, that it really is a lot lighter when dried. So switching to the next, to the PBr43 pigment, iron manganese oxide. The only one I have found is from a handmade brand. I found on the database of Dr. Otto Karnow that the White Knight's Raw Sienna is also made with this pigment, but this must have to be some sort of mistake, because all the information from the brand themselves is that it is either a PY43, which is to be expected, because a lot of brands use that pigment, yellow iron oxide pigment, for a raw sienna, or a PBr7. It is used, and I've looked up all of my raw siennas I have in sets from White Knights, and they are also all either PY43 or not PBr43, PBr7. So not a manganese, but iron oxide pigments. And also the product photos from the brand shows it with the iron oxide pigments and not with a PBr43. So I think that is a mistake. The other commercial brand using a PY164 I found is Isaro, a brand from Belgium. But this is a mixed color, so it has nothing to do with the single pigment colors we have from the two I have swatched. Isaro's Mindy Green is a mixture of different pigments to get a green, and also a mica, so it is a glittery color, just to be complete. So the information about the pigment itself, it is also excellent in light fastness, best light fastness rating, very staining, has a good tinting strength, very dark yellowish to reddish browns. So there is definitely a range what kind of brown colors it can make. It is opaque, a natural earth pigment that dates back to antiquity. So it was already used in the antique times, from man to color stuff. And it can be similar to ochres in color. I have read that it has an bronze over effect in mess tone, but I couldn't find any information what that exactly means. I guess that it may get yellowish over time or a yellowish hue over time, possibly, but I'm not completely sure. So now, switching to PBr8, manganese hydroxide or manganese manganite. This color here is from Gallo, also an Italian handmade brand. I'm sure most of you already know. And it is called chromite brown. It is labeled as a PBr8, but also labeled with chemical formula FeCr2O4, which doesn't include Mn, which would be the chemical sign for manganese. So I'm not quite sure if this is a genuine PBr8 or what it is, why the chemical formula they also include as an information from Gallo doesn't contain any manganese, because the PBr8 is a manganese pigment, so that is confusing. I'm not quite sure which information here is the correct one. If someone of you have more information about it, please let me know, because I'm not sure about this color because of that different information. So the pigment itself, manganic hydroxide and manganese manganite occurs naturally, but the commercial product is usually synthetic made. Manganese hydroxides and oxides naturally contains also iron oxides and clays. I'm not sure about the clays. That is just an information I found. If that means it occurs more in clay rich earth, I'm not sure. The biggest misinformation about the pigment is the confusion about PBr8 and NBr8. For those of you who don't know, we have a different numbering with pigments. We have the P system, like we have here with the PBr8, which is the bigger range of pigments, which also contains all of our earth pigments, mineral pigments, synthetic pigments like quinacridones and stuff like that. And we have the N system for natural pigments, which mostly are containing pigments made from animals or plants and stuff like that. And we have an NBr8, which is the genuine Van Dyke brown pigment, and we have the PBr8, which is the manganese brown. And even a lot of art supply brands do mix those two, give out misinformation because of it, because of this confusion problem. I also had in the past comments about, I have an NBr8 and it is super light fast, either because the brand mislabels it as very light fast, because the PBr8 is a very light fast pigment, but not the NBr8, which is a not light fast pigment that will definitely fade over time, or the brand writes down that it is a genuine Van Dyke brown, but it is completely made with PBr8. So, like I said, even art supply producers are confused in that department, but the reality is that NBr8 and PBr8 are two different pigments. It is not the same. The NBr8, the genuine Van Dyke brown, like I said, is a not light fast pigment. The PBr8, the manganese brown, is a light fast pigment. I have found in on one site that there was listed, at least at the time, the brands that say they're using genuine Van Dyke brown, but have only the PBr8, the manganese brown in it, and that is the Schminke All colors. The color name is Castle Earth, the Sennelier Van Dyke Brown dry pigment, and the Utrecht Van Dyke Brown oil paint. But also, like I said, there are mislabelings. For example, I have a NBr8 watercolor from Shinhan PwC, and they write down that it is best in light fastness, which definitely the NBr8 just isn't, because it fades nearly completely over time. So yeah, that definitely isn't light fast. That is something I definitely want to make aware of. They are different pigments. The light fastness is very different. And just if you are having a paint containing NBr8, be aware of it is not light fast. If you are having a paint which states it is a genuine Van Dyke brown, but lists only the PBr8, then it is not a genuine Van Dyke brown, it is a manganese brown. Just be aware of that. Like all the other manganese pigments, we also have here the pigment is very light fast, it is has a high tinting strength, it is opaque to semi-transparent, it granulates, and it is toxic. And that is something all the commercial brands don't offer, because there is a big problem, especially for young women who plan to be pregnant or are already pregnant, because the pigment can harm the unborn child in the womb. And that is an information I think is very, very important, because a lot of us are young women and some of us plan to get pregnant or are already pregnant and painting. So I think it is a very, very important information which no of the commercial brands ever offer. I only find it on the last paint I swatched with, which is a handmade brand, handmade watercolor. The artisan who made it definitely labeled it as toxic and that it can harm the unborn child in the womb. And it also can harm your organs if you are very exposed to it and inhale it or eat it. So don't eat it, don't drink it, don't inhale it, and always, like with other toxic pigments, be very careful while handling it. Wash your hands thoroughly afterwards. Don't eat or drink while painting with the color. That is definitely something I wanted to make you aware of. We have two other brands offering PBr8 watercolor, and that is the Japanese brand Kusakabe, their Van Dyke Brown. There we have it again, Van Dyke Brown, PBr8. And the greenish umber from Rembrandt is also made of PBr8, at least 2 pigment databases. So it is gained from manganese minerals like brownite or haussmannite, and I've never heard before my research from haussmannite, so I had to look up and this one up, and it is named after Johann Friedrich Ludwig Haussmann, which was a professor of mineralogy at the German University of Göttingen. He was born in Hanover, another German city, in the year of 1782 on the 22nd of February, and he died on the 26th of December 1859 in Göttingen. It was not named by himself, but renamed by Wilhelm von Heidinger, which is an Austrian mineralogist and geologist. And he renamed it in the year 1827 in honor of a houseman. So yeah, let's take a closer look at this. There you can see that the color really can get nearly blackish dark, but as you can see, the swatches are much, much lighter than they looked up when wet. You can also see the beautiful granulation, and also that it has a slight, this color and the color before, a slight color separation effects with the darker particles and the lighter, more brownish, yellowish in this part, or brownish reddish in the other part particles. Yeah, also very beautiful granulation on this color. If you ask me personally which would be my personal favorite of all of them, it is the PBr43, the handmade color. This is definitely the color I like the most from all of them. I mean, they are all beautiful. I also like the PY164 and the handmade PBr8. The Agallo color itself is beautiful, and it has this beautiful color separation effect, but the ground color, this greenish-like brown, which reminds me a lot of a raw umber, is just absolutely not my color. I hate raw umber. So that is just a personal preference. Has nothing to do with the quality or the color itself. So I have some more information to the PBr8, which I want to give you. Manganesebrown was first thought to be described by Roman historian and writer Pliny, but then it was considered to be iron ore. So sometimes it is mentioned as Manganesebrown still in some pages, but historians are sure now that it is more iron ore. It is also has synonyms like I already said, Hausmannite, or in German Glanzbraunstein, which means shimmering brownstone, Manganesebister, mineral bister, or wrongly labeled as Van Dyke brown, like I already mentioned. With a manganese oxide part of 95%, it has a much higher. It is much higher as in any other manganese pigments. Because of its resistant to alkalic resistance, it can also be used to color Tadelact, which I had to look up. It is an American plaster, and also it can be used for cement plaster and now I totally forgot. Concrete, to color concrete. It is highly compatible with a lot of binding agent, such as acrylic, methyl cellulose, gum arabic oil, the glazing you use for ceramics, for fresco technique, and back in the past it also was used for cartoon print. I don't know if the word cartoon is the same in English, but it is a special kind of cotton. Special cotton printing technique from the past. The translation says calico. I'm not sure if that means the same. Sometimes translation programs are not 100% correct. So yeah. It was made with chloric, the combination of this, I don't know, in German it is called brown stone. I'm not sure if that kind of earth is called the same, or if it's called brownstone in English as well. Because when I try to translate Braunstein, I always get brownstone, because braun means brown and Stein means stone. It is a direct translation, but I'm not sure if this earth is called the same in English. So just to be aware of. If someone can answer that question for me, please let me know in the comments below. Also with hydrochloric acid. So this brownstone and hydrochloric acid and chlor. It was you get an waste product, and manganese salt acid. And if you then give some sodium bicarbonate to it, you can get manganese brown out of it. You can also do manganese chloride with chloridic lime. Is this lime? Calc? Yeah, lime. Or with calcium carbonate is also possible. This product then gets filtered, dried, and then sorry, my brain today isn't working good. Sifted, that's the translation I get when you are separating the particles from each other, and then you get a powder, and that is then salt. So the element manganese is made of this brownstone. It was, when it was first discovered, named as magnesia or magnesia nigra, so black magnesia, and then later as magnesia. In German it is, normally you say magnesia is magnesium in German, and manganese is called mangan, and they called it manganesium. So manganesium it would be probably in English. And because it is so close to magnesia, there was a lot of confusion. And because of that, they said, okay, we have to change the name. So that was when they decided to call it only magnesia, manganese, and let the magnesia part away to not confuse it with the other element. The historians say that probably the natural forms of manganese brown and also manganese black, which probably was powdered manganite, was also used for art in prehistoric times, for these paintings they have in caves and also for fire making as well. So with that said, it is one of the oldest pigments used by mankind for art. The first synthetic producement probably was around the year 1770 through the Austrian chemist and Dr. Ignatius Gottfried Keim, born in 1746 and died in 1778. He used this brownstone with carbon to reduce it and gained unpure manganese from it. He called it Braunsteinkönig, which translates to brownstone king. His invention just didn't, there wasn't any benefit or any usage out of it. So he made his invention, but it was probably not used or recognized or anything. But 4 years later, a Swedish chemist, Carl Wilhelm Scheele, which is also the inventor of the Scheele green, which probably some of you may have heard of already, a very toxic historic green pigment. He realized that brownstone is no iron ore, but it contains another, to that point, unknown metal. And because of it, he said to another Swedish chemist, Johann Gottlieb Gahn, that he should try to reduce the brownstone with carbon, like Ignatius Gottfried Keim already did, and to gain pure manganese out of it. And he did this, and he was the first person ever produce pure elemental manganese. But if that knowledge was used in any kind for anything at all is completely unclear, because the first really written down proof of a synthetic production of manganese brown is from the 19th century, so a lot of years later. And yeah, also manganese components have catalytic properties, so that in oil paintings, which contain manganese brown, they dry a lot faster than other oil paints, which I found very interesting. Yeah, that is all the information I gathered to that pigment, or to all of the pigments. I really hope that this video was interesting and helpful. Thank you very much for watching it. And like always, I very much appreciate a thumbs up or a follow, because it really helps me and the channel a lot. So thank you for that as well. I hope you have a wonderful day, and to see you soon in one of the other videos. The next will be the last of the manganese family. We will be taking a look at manganese gray and blacks. And then we will continue with rose madder and alizarin crimson, because that was a follower request. And after that we will continue with another follower request with the cadmium family. So yeah, if you don't want to miss this, please let a follow, and thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye.